Why Arch Manning is the key to a Longhorn upset in Athens. That's next on Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're Locked On to the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. We've got a few insider practice nuggets, including what Texas has been emphasizing in practice this week, plus a recap of Longhorn basketball's win over Fairleigh Dickinson. But first, a few thoughts on how this Texas offense needs to attack the Georgia defense to have a shot at an upset Saturday night. We all know the quarterback is the most important player on any football team. For Texas against Georgia this weekend, there is no exception to that rule. Arch Manning has to be at minimum very good, but preferably great for Texas to win between the hedges. And odds are he's going to be asked to do a whole lot in this football game. And the data backs that up. Let's take a look at Georgia's 3 worst defensive games of the 2025 season. The loss at Alabama, their only one this season, the miracle overtime win at Tennessee, and the crazy fourth quarter comeback win at home against Ole Miss. The Dogs gave up 24 to Bama, 35 to Ole Miss, and 41 in that overtime game in Knoxville. Those are the 3 highest point totals that Georgia has allowed this year. So I looked at those games and I wondered, what can Texas and what can all of us take from those 3 games where the Georgia defense looked human, for lack of a better word? I'm going to pull up a chart for those of you watching via YouTube, and I'll, of course, explain this to those tuned in by way of podcast. There we go. Screen share's working today. We're looking specifically at the quarterbacks from Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss, and how they fared statistically against this Georgia defense. I went in chronological order. So Tennessee first, Alabama, and then Ole Miss. Joey Aguilar, the Volunteers quarterback, 24 for 36, 371 yards passing, averaged more than 10 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, just 1 sack. Also 4 carries for 2 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Alabama, Ty Simpson, in the one game that Georgia lost this season. Simpson was 24 for 38 throwing the football, 276 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. Also added a rushing touchdown as well. Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, the stud first-year transfer for the Rebels, 19 for 36 passing, 263 yards, over 7 yards per attempt, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. He had 2 rushing scores against Georgia. So some trends here, some big takeaways, a few themes that you will notice from those stat lines. Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss allowed a total of 1 sack combined against Georgia. That helped. Texas allowed 13 sacks in their 2 games against Georgia last season. 0 or 1, like Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Yeah, much more palatable numbers for Texas. How about just 2 giveaways for those 3 quarterbacks total? Both of them were by Joey Aguilar. His second interception came in overtime, an overtime that only happened because Tennessee's kicker pulled a Burt Auburn and choked against Georgia. Well, he pulled a Tennessee against Georgia. They collapse against them every year. No need to bring Sideshow Burt into this. But yeah, only 1 interception in regulation, had 1 in overtime as well. But look at Ty Simpson and Trinidad Chambliss, 0 interceptions for either of them. Go back to the 2 2024 matchups for Texas against Georgia. 3 turnovers in each game. Good news for Texas. The Longhorns have done a much better job protecting the football as of late. Just 1 turnover in the last 4 games total. You love that. You love that. You need that this weekend. Another theme. Look at the volume of passing attempts. 36 for Aguilar, 38 for Simpson, 36 for Chambliss. None of those 3 teams ran the ball incredibly well against Georgia. Very few teams have this year, or really in any year in the Kirby Smart era. Georgia's giving up just 3.1 yards per carry on the ground. They're giving up 6.8 yards per attempt through the air. Which would you prefer, the 3.1 or the 6.8? I thought so. And, oh, by the way, Texas ranks last in the SEC in rushing yards per game in conference play. So I'm not sure this is the get-right team for that element of the Longhorn offense. I'd love for them to establish a ground game, but it hasn't really worked for Texas this year. And let's be honest, the Longhorn offense has been at its best when they've been throwing the ball a lot. Arch Manning's 2 best games of the season, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, about 46 passing attempts against the other Bulldogs and 33 passing attempts against the Doors in Texas's most recent games. His 2 highest passing attempts of the season. Again, for my money, his 2 best performances in 2025. So you look at Joey Aguilar, you look at Ty Simpson, you look at Trinidad Chambliss. Why have those quarterbacks and those 3 teams had all of this success through the air against the Mean Machine in red and black? It's pretty simple. It's things we've talked about this week. It's things that I'm sure y'all have heard a lot this week leading up to the game. Georgia's pass rush is not as dominant as it was a year ago. And the lack of negative plays inflicted by their front has been one of the main issues for their defense this season. They rank dead last in the SEC in sacks per game. They only have 11 sacks in 9 games, 1.22 per contest. They're also dead last in the conference in tackles for a loss, 125th in the country out of 136 teams. This is Georgia we're talking about. All of these stats look like typos to me. Only 35 TFLs for the Dogs through 9 games. They had 25 in the 2 games against the Longhorns last year. They have 35 in 9 games this year. And they've played teams way worse than 2024 Texas. Way worse than 2024 Texas, who, of course, made it to the college football playoff semifinal. Insane to look at some of these numbers. Georgia's also 97th nationally in third down defense, allowing nearly a 43% conversion rate. Those issues stem from a lack of negative plays. Again, they are not getting enough from their edges. They are not getting enough from their defensive tackles. That is allowing teams to pick up chunk plays through the air. That's allowing teams to keep drives alive on third down. All of it corresponds to the lack of Georgia pass rush. The last theme, we've talked about sort of 3 similarities between those 3 quarterbacks. The last theme, they all had a rushing touchdown. Again, I'm not sure I trust Texas's traditional running game to get going this weekend, although it would be very nice. So incorporating Arch's legs, especially near the goal line, could help put a few more points on the board. I'm not saying he should be running the ball 10, 15, 20 times in this game. Remember, he suffered a concussion less than a month ago. He only had 1 carry against Vanderbilt, and this Texas offense, again, played a really, really good game. Their best performance from start to finish of the season. So I don't know if you need to be running Arch Manning that much, but his legs are a weapon. Use them, especially near the goal line. It could help you put a few more points on the board. Don't get me wrong. The Bulldog defense is still loaded with talent, even on the defensive line, like they always are. And the Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann combination is as good as there is in our favorite sport. But Georgia this year, they do some things defensively that we're not accustomed to seeing. They also rank 52nd in passing yards allowed. They're having those major problems getting to opposing quarterbacks. Their secondary has struggled against stronger passing attacks, especially when opposing quarterbacks have time to find open windows. Feels like this Texas offensive line maybe found something with their new starting 5 that they trotted out against Vandy. If the Longhorns can give Manning time, this Texas offense should be able to find separation against the Georgia pass defense that just hasn't been that good. The Texas weapons are healthy. There's a lot of talent on the outside. I'm telling you, it's a good recipe for a very good, again, preferably great Arch Manning performance, and I think the Longhorns are going to need it. So, in conclusion, don't turn the football over. High passing output. You can get a rushing touchdown from your quarterback as well. Those are the things that Georgia has struggled with in their 3 worst defensive performances of the year. Obviously, this is all easier said than done, but that's what you're looking for if you're a Longhorn fan on Saturday night. What's your confidence in Arch Manning? What's your confidence in the Longhorns going on the road to Athens and pulling off a top 5 upset? Would love to hear from y'all in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. All right, more on Texas, Georgia. We've got some insider nuggets from Texas practice, some injury updates, and a few things that the Longhorns have been emphasizing behind the scenes to get ready for this game. It's all coming up next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at FanDuel. The NBA and college basketball are back, and there was no better place to get in on the action than with our friends at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, or if you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on literally everything, from who's going to score the next bucket to fourth quarter or second half comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for shots at even bigger payouts. We're all looking for that, right? FanDuel keeps every game more exciting, especially when the Longhorns or your favorite team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Some insider news, notes, and nuggets from this week of Longhorn practice. And we'll start with the injury front. Not really an insider note here, because I think everybody saw this. The first injury report of Texas, Georgia came out last night, and no Longhorns were listed. Not a single one. Michael Taaffe, Ryan Wingo, Jelani McDonald, Dalen McCutcheon, all of those guys who missed some or all of the Longhorns' most recent game, they're all good to go this weekend. That is awesome. You talk about the bye week coming at the perfect time. There's your proof right there on that Wednesday night injury report. Texas is remarkably healthy going into the biggest game of the season. Love that. Michael Taaffe has been practicing all week. He has been practicing with a small cast on that right hand to protect that surgically repaired thumb. Yes, he's out there. No, he's not 100%. I don't know how many guys really are at this stage of the year, but obviously a great thing for this secondary and for this defense as a whole that any version of number 16 will be on the field. 80% Michael Taaffe, 90% Michael Taaffe, whatever it is, that is better than not having the heart and soul of this defense available to play. He's one of the best players in America, and this Texas defense has looked completely different without him on the field. Gunnar Stockton, this Georgia offense has been really good. You need all hands on deck on defense. Speaking of the defense, Jelani McDonald out of concussion protocol. I've been told he is, quote, back to looking like his usual self, end quote. Very good sign. Got hurt early. Can't combine those two words. Got hurt early against Vanderbilt. The Texas secondary struggled without him. Of course, no Michael Taaffe either. I think the Taaffe-McDonald duo is going to play like 95% of the safety snaps for Texas this weekend. No disrespect to Derek Williams Jr. or Xavier Filsaime or Jonah Williams, but this is Georgia. You want your best players on the field as often as possible against this team. And of course, I mean, this is pretty damn close to a must-win game too, especially for Texas's SEC championship hopes. Maybe you could still make the playoff. We've talked about that. We'll get to that more some other time, but very close to a must-win game for Texas. You need your best guys playing as often as possible. Over to the offense, Ryan Wingo has been practicing all week, and I've read that he hasn't shown any lingering issues from that dislocated thumb that he suffered in the first quarter against Vandy 2 weeks ago. That's big. I mean, Wingo has been a huge part of this offensive game plan lately. We all know he's a difference maker with the ball in his hands, and just having him out there is huge. I think every Longhorn fan has kind of had the same thoughts since the thumb injury. Like, man, Wingo's had drop issues with a good thumb. What's it going to be with a bad thumb? Sounds like drops haven't been a problem in practice. That's practice. Playing on the road at Georgia, a different beast. But again, the fact that Wingo is out there, he's done everything right with his rehab. He's continued to progress, and he'll be in the starting lineup in 2 days. All very, very good things. And then one more for a guy who has been healthy, at least healthy enough to play, running back CJ Baxter. I know Baxter missed a few games early on with the hamstring injury, but he's been on the field for SEC play. I think it's safe to say that he hasn't looked right, at least hasn't looked like his old self. I mean, he's looked slow, and honestly, he looked bad against Vanderbilt. I've made the case that James Simon should be getting number 2 running back reps behind Trey Wisner this week. I doubt it happens because the staff trusts CJ Baxter a lot, and James Simon is a true freshman. And again, I don't know if in this spot you're going to see a ton of true freshmen or just backups in general playing. But man, to me, Baxter needs to show a little bit more than he has to warrant some significant playing time. The update, as I get back on track, the hamstring has been lingering a bit. And the belief is the week off has helped Baxter have enough time to get back to something better. Is that 2023 CJ Baxter? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see that at any point here in 2025. But can he give you a little something in relief of Trey Wisner? Texas could really use it. Hopefully the reports are right. Hopefully the time off has helped. Hopefully CJ Baxter is a different cat in Athens. A couple of other nuggets here. How about a few depth chart notes? We'll start with cornerback on defense. Expect to see a little more of true freshman Cade Phillips. Not necessarily in a starting role. Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo are your 2 top corners. That hasn't changed. But I think Phillips has played his way into being Jalen Gilbo's backup. He's learning the defense. He's earning the trust of this coaching staff. He's also earning a lot of praise for what he's done on special teams. And we know the Texas staff loves guys who put in the extra work in that third phase. And stuff like that can be a bit of a tiebreaker when it comes to playing time versus somebody else. So again, we're talking about a true freshman here. I don't know exactly how many snaps he'll get, but Cade Phillips played 19 snaps against Vanderbilt, the 3rd most for a Longhorn corner. The staff has been rotating corners a decent amount, and Phillips continues to work his way up. I think we might see a little bit more of the true freshman on Saturday. And then at linebacker, Anthony Smith continues to get more and more run with the number 1 defense alongside Anthony Hill. That doesn't mean we won't see Leonga Lafau against Georgia, but it sounds like Smith's role has increased throughout the last week and a half, and Texas has been giving the second-year linebacker a bigger load in practice, again, since the most recent game. Linebacker play is going to be massive. It's going to be massive on Saturday. Georgia has the best and the deepest tight end room in America, so the Horns linebackers are going to be asked to cover a lot, and the film for them in coverage hasn't been great. So I expect Georgia offensive coordinator Mike Bobo to try to attack those linebackers. Can they hold up against Delp and Lucky and Williams? Big key for this Texas defense. And, of course, Georgia ran for more than 300 rushing yards, so they're going to try to run it against Texas. You need the linebackers to hold up there as well. So what's been the keys at practice? What's been the focus for the Longhorns this week? Coach Sark has said numerous times that his teams tend to do a good job of doing what the coaches emphasize on the practice field. I've been told turnovers, both preventing them on offense and getting them on defense, has been a huge part of the message all week long. You know, ball security, once again, I think I said this earlier, non-existent for Texas in 2024. They had 3 turnovers in each game against the Dogs. As of late, Texas has been great protecting the football. Just 1 giveaway total in the last 4 weeks. Been a big part of this 4-game winning streak. Texas only has 7 turnovers on the year so far through 9 games. That ranks 6th in the country, by the way. Not getting talked about enough. Only 1 fumble lost. Hopefully I didn't announce or jinx us right there. But that's the good news. It's been emphasized, and it is working. Now, Georgia doesn't turn it over a ton. They only have 9 this year. Gunnar Stockton's only thrown 2 picks. Love to force 1. What may be more likely is a fumble. Georgia's lost 5 of them, so better odds. No, Georgia's -2 in turnover margin. They're not creating a bunch of takeaways, but again, it's a point of emphasis for Texas to try to take the ball away from a team that's not giving it away a lot. That could be the difference, though. The Longhorns were -4 combined in the turnover margin against Georgia in 2024. 3 more quick things that I've heard about practice this week that should, I think, excite you, Locked On Longhorn fan. This isn't really an insider note, but Texas has been trotting out the same 5 offensive linemen all week long, and those guys will get the nod against Georgia. That's number 1. Number 2, Texas has been practicing with more 11 personnel packages. This offense is at its best out of 11. We know that. We've talked about that ad nauseum on this show. The numbers back that up. And the Georgia secondary, again, hasn't been as good as it normally is. Some questions about their safety. Their corners are good. They are pretty grabby. 9 penalties between their 2 starting corners. But this is more about Texas than it is about Georgia. Your best playmakers in your passing game are at wide receiver. They're not at tight end. Don't give them a gift by playing your average tight ends right now. They will have no problems. I don't care that it's a bit of a down year for Georgia's secondary. If you are trotting out Texas's tight ends, maybe outside of Jack injuries, that's a win for Georgia every single time. Don't gift wrap them something, please. They're already playing at home. They're already favored. They don't need any more help, all right? And then number 3, special teams has been a big point of emphasis. The Horns got embarrassed on special teams last year, especially in the SEC title. 2 missed field goals, averaged just 39 yards a punt. They allowed a fake punt conversion. It was a disaster in the 3rd phase. This game could come down to Jack Bomeister being able to flip the field, Mason Shipley being able to make his kicks, and Ryan Niblett, he's able to have another incredible return. I wouldn't hate that either. So there you go. Some points of emphasis for Texas during practice this week, some injury updates, and all sorts of stuff to get you more excited and ready for Saturday night at 6:30. All right, let's shift gears here. Texas basketball took care of business against Fairleigh Dickinson last night. A few takeaways from the Longhorn win, including another strong performance from Matas Vokietaitis. That's next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. More than 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Supply House's real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Again, next-day delivery, total game changer. In their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and a dedicated support line, they make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score those serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Head over to supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, final segment, Thursday edition, Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. The Texas men's basketball team had little problem with Fairleigh Dickinson at the Moody Center last night. They won by a final score of 93-58. You know what they say? Good teams win. Great teams cover on FanDuel. Okay, maybe I added that last part, but we love our friends at FanDuel. Texas was a 31-point favorite last night. They won by 35. The Longhorns actually went down 10-2 early on, and then they remembered they were playing Fairleigh Dickinson and just turned it on. They went on a 12-0 run, to take a lead, and the Longhorns never trailed again. The Horns pushed the lead to 19 at halftime, and they put the game out of reach very early on in the second half. Good, bad, and ugly. A lot more good than bad and ugly. The offense, about 90-plus points in back-to-back games for Texas. I know they're playing nobodies, but still nice to see. This team can get scoring from a lot of different places. Skilled bigs, playmaking guards, pure shooters. They are fun to watch. You got a guy like Dalen Swain who does a little bit of everything, who could score at all 3 levels. It's fun. And they play up tempo too, and they move the ball. It's entertaining basketball. Again, I know the opponent is the opponent, but to me, it is clear that this offense is different than what we've seen around here as of late. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy with that one in the comments below. 8 different players scored for Texas in the first half. 9 different Longhorns scored in the game. Big game for Tremont Mark. He was all over the place on both ends. About 20 points, a game high on 9 of 13 shooting. Hit a couple of threes. No turnovers. Maybe my favorite stat of Tremont Mark's night. 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Again, a little bit of everything. And then Matas Vokietaitis, the big man, transfer from Florida Atlantic. If you haven't seen him play yet, check him out. He's the MVP of this team through 3 games. But he's the MVP of this team so far. 19 points in only 19 minutes. Didn't miss a shot, 8 for 8 from the field. He got into some foul trouble early, so he only played 8 minutes in the first half. And then, Texas was cruising in the second half, so he didn't play a ton. But 19 and 6 on 8 of 8 shooting in less than 20 minutes, that'll work. I don't care who you're playing against. That's impressive stuff right there. Sim Wilcher, man, I like what I've seen from him. Showing some speed, showing some quickness. 9 points for him to follow up his 12-point showing against Lafayette. He's earning some playing time. I like that Sean Miller. One thing I've noticed early on this year, he gives his players freedom. Any guard who gets a defensive rebound has the green light to start the fast break. And I love that because that makes Texas a lot tougher to defend. The half-court offense looks better, but why wait to get into the half-court offense? You don't have to settle to set something up. You can get out and go. There's no problem. That's the beauty of boxing out and getting a defensive rebound is you could turn that into transition buckets on the other end. It doesn't have to be a steal. Doesn't have to be a block. You could just get a rebound and take off. That's what Texas has been doing. So big fan of that sort of point of emphasis from Sean Miller and company early. The bad, again, the start, Texas down 10-2 out the gate. Don't care too much about that. 3-point shooting for the Longhorns. You can glass half full this if you want and say, well, Texas shot 6 of 23 from deep and still won by 35. Or you could say, well, Texas shot just 26% from deep against Fairleigh Dickinson. Good news is you were playing FDU. You probably are not going to be able to get away with that against SEC teams or even some of the tough non-conference games that you have coming up. But to win a game by 35 with that 3-point shooting, all right. Kendall Weaver, his shooting is a problem. I feel bad for him because I know he spent a ton of time in the offseason working on his shot. And I'm not giving up on it yet, but obviously the fruits of his labor are not ripe just yet. 0 for 2 from 3. Has yet to make a 3 this season. He's 0 for 7. He also went 3 of 7 from the free throw line. So just all things shooting bad for Kendall Weaver last night and bad for 3 games. And then the ugly, just one. Again, you win by 35. Not a lot to complain too much about. But Texas was 19 of 34 from the free throw line. They missed 15 free throws. They shot just 56%. They would have easily scored 100 in this game if they could make their free throws. Not even all of them, just 70, 75%. They make that at the charity stripe, then they cracked triple digits last night. So the 34 attempts, that's good, but you got to make more than 56% of your free throws. Again, FDU, no problem. You get away with it. You could still win easily, but you play close games and you miss all of those free throws, that's going to cost you later on down the line. So I'm Sean Miller. Next game for Texas this Saturday against Kansas City. It's at 12 o'clock, so you can watch that and then catch the Horns at Georgia Saturday night. I'm working on free throws these next couple of days because that can't happen again. By the way, Game Time, that app has you covered with Texas basketball tickets all season long. Nice win, though, for Texas men's basketball. Again, they cover against Fairleigh Dickinson to move to 2-1 on the year. And shout out to the Texas volleyball team, a 5-set thriller at Auburn last night for the 4th-ranked Longhorns. All right, that will do it for today's episode. If you made it this far, number 1, God bless you. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share all of those great things so I don't get fired. Really do appreciate y'all's continued support of Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They have you covered for all of your sports betting needs. Game picks, the lock of the day, expert analysis. It's all in one spot. You can find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. More Texas, Georgia conversation coming up tomorrow. We can't talk about this game enough. We're all over it all the way until kickoff. And, of course, with post-game late Saturday night as well. But that will do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.